we keep it 100%. No filters, just real talk from real people who's been through the fire and come out stronger. I'm your host, Uncle Jimmy, straight out of Dorchester, Massachusetts, pulling up a chair for conversations that hit deep. Today, we've got a powerhouse joining us all the way from the wild beauty of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Rose Kayazo. I hope I said it right.
You sure did.
Better known as Jackson Hole Rose. She's a social media veteran, live streaming coach, on-camera talent, voiceover artist, former syndicated radio host of Yellowstone Country with Jackson Hole Rose, and the founder of the live streaming Secret Circle and Social Media Secrets Club. After a decade in the corporate grind, Rose ditched the safe path, chased her passions, guiding adventures, mastering emerging tech, and building businesses on her terms. Now, with AI making it hard to know what's real online, which is so true, she's on a mission, helping entrepreneurs, especially women over 50, break through self doubt, camera shyness, and imposter vibes to show up live, authentic, and unstoppable. Because in this fake it world, live video is the ultimate proof you're the real deal. Rose has stories from radio days, solopreneur highs and lows, pushing past fears like that Navy dreamer parents shut down for good reason, and why showing up raw builds trust faster than any polished post. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the real stuff. This is Uncle Jimmy's podcast with Jackson Hole Rose. Peace and love. Let's get into it. How you doing today, Rose?
Woo! Thank you for that fabulous introduction. I'll just add real quick, if we were in Italy, we would say Caiazzo, but yes, it's Rose Caiazzo.
Is that where you're from? Is that where your family's from?
I'm only half crazy, right? So my father was from Brooklyn, so I could start talking like this if you wanted me to. But when I was 7 years old, I decided I didn't want to talk like everybody else. So I wanted to talk like the people on the radio.
That's the best, right? Get rid of the Brooklyn accent, right? I say it all the time when I started changing my Boston accent was, they're so strong, like the Brooklyn accent. I would go into boardrooms and stuff and meetings, and I would hear myself talk, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to cut it, right? So I changed my voice myself, right, and stop saying "ka" in all those crazy ways that we do here in Boston. It's crazy.
Although
Just
you
like
did call me an artist, and I was like,
an
I kind
artist,
of like
right?
that.
So Rose, right? You spent 10 years in corporate before jumping ship. What was the
Oh,
breaking point that made you say enough? I'm building my
oh,
own life.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can answer that one for sure. So, one of the things about being an entrepreneur and not even knowing that you are one is that you just blab all your great ideas to everybody.
Yeah.
And then I think the long and short of it was the next day after I told someone a great idea of mine, I saw the CEO stand on top of the stage and announce my idea has his own to everyone. And I was like, what the F? Are you kidding? Um, so there were other things like a buildup of, gosh, why am I even living here? Why am I doing this? I don't even know. Like, I hate this place. I don't want to be here. So there was a buildup, and it wound up to basically selling almost everything I owned and leaving.
And leaving, yeah. Was that back in New York?
Actually, it was Connecticut. I moved to Connecticut for 3 full years just to see how different it was, and there were a lot of trees, Uncle Jimmy, but not enough. Not enough trees.
So you get out of that, right? And so your parents, right? They shut down your Navy dream because of scandals like Tailhook. How did that
Mm,
rejection shape your views on risk, protection, and chasing what you want later in life?
right. That's interesting you bring up the tailhook thing because I just posted that today.
Oh, okay.
There was a long time ago where something happened, and I came into my parents' living room, and I said, I'm going into the Navy. And they said, like, hell you are. No, you're not. And I'm thinking, I'm 18. I could do what I want. They're like, you're not going. You're not doing it.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't know what tailhook is, and all you have to do is Google the word tailhook, either incident or type in 1991, and you'll find out what that's all about. My parents knew in advance, I guess, from people they knew or they knew the culture, because these parties they had were pretty intense. And I think I was more annoyed that they were making the decision for me. But
Yeah.
now that I found out decades later what actually happened at those events, I feel like the door that closed for the Navy on me was okay,
Yeah.
right? But all those years I wondered, what? Why the heck can't I be in the Navy? I want to be in the Navy. They're going to pay for my education, and I'm going to do communications. I'm going to do all these great things. And my parents are like, "No, you're not."
And that was at 18 you wanted to go in?
Yes.
So right after school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom wanted me to go to college. You know, the same old story when you're from the East Coast.
Yeah.
No, you have to go to college. And my parents were both entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So, you had my mom saying she needs an education. She's smart. My dad saying, yeah, she's smart, but she needs, she needs to know the rules of the street. My
Yeah.
dad was more of like a, street dog, and my mom was, skipped a grade in school kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, he wanted me to be more, I don't know, street worthy or whatever. Like he felt like I didn't know stuff. But he still said, "You're gonna work for somebody else." He's like, "You should just start your own business." And I was like, "What? I cannot start my own business.
Yeah.
I know nothing about business." But when I got in that corporate world, man, did I learn fast and hard.
And
Like, in the sharky waters, full on.
so what did mom and dad do for work? Entrepreneur work.
Yes, my father was a masonry contractor, so he
Okay.
worked with his hands, which probably leads to why I guided for so long and I loved being in the guide world and doing that physical work. He
Yeah.
worked really hard in the summer times and then he didn't work in the winter.
Yeah.
My mother owned a company where she helped other people find what do we call them? They're called companions, right?
Okay.
So not really healthcare workers in the sense that, they're doing honestly the dirty work that some of the aides do, but more companion work like taking them to the mall, taking them shopping, taking them to their doctor's appointments, people that are older that can't drive themselves, this type of thing. And she was very successful and she loved her work. She was absolutely called to be a companion.
That's awesome. So what's the deepest fear, right? You've had to face when stepping in front of a camera, and how did you push through it?
I mean, there's been many times, but I could tell you a story about how I felt like Cindy Brady. If you've ever seen that episode where she walks around, and she's like, "I know everything, and I'm gonna like be awesome on this TV show," and da 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 da. And everyone was like, "Okay." And they would ask her a question. She's like, "I know it's President da 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 da," right? And then she gets on the TV show, and the guy is so TV showish. "Hey everyone, welcome to the children are gonna, battle each other in the whatever." And Cindy's all sitting there like this, like, "I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win." And then all of a sudden he's like, "All right." He's like, "Children, this is how it works. The camera's gonna go on, there's gonna be a light, and then we're on air. So don't do anything stupid," basically, he tells them. And she's all still like, "I'm confident, I'm confident." And then all of a sudden, the light goes on, and she's like this.
Just freezes.
Deer in headlights. So, if there's one thing that I learned in my younger days, because I did try my hand at acting, and not that I'm bad at acting, but I don't like to be an actor. I like to be myself.
Yeah.
And so there's a big difference between that. That's why I say an on camera host as opposed to an on camera actor, right?
Actor, yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
difference there. And I don't call myself a voiceover actor, I call myself a voiceover talent. But I think memorizing things really is hard if you're not an actor.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the acting space, you're memorizing to become that character. And regular, normal people do not do well at that.
No.
So
Unless you're
when I was
Marlon Brando, right?
forced,
You ever heard the stories of Brando on the Godfather set?
no, tell me.
So he couldn't memorize his lines. So they used to like there's small things like if you look at him when he's sitting on the table, he keeps looking down, and he would have his lines written. And sometimes they would have his lines written on big huge poster boards so he could say them.
Right, cue
Right?
cards.
Yeah, and he's
Hmm.
Marlon Brando, so it's like nobody's gonna tell him he has to memorize lines, you know. And
It's a very difficult task,
it
honestly.
It is. I was lucky enough to be on some movie sets here in Boston, and I got to see uh, Jack Nicholson. I met Jack Nicholson, and he was the nicest guy I've ever met. And
Cool.
to see him play, to see him do his trade, it was on The Departed. Scorsese was
Oh,
the director, and I got to meet Martin Scorsese briefly,
hey,
and it was so cool. But when I tell you this, Jack Nicholson, there was probably about 200 people after they broke that wanted a picture and an autograph, and Jack Nicholson stayed for every person, signed every autograph, and gave everyone a photo. And it was the most like, and he's Jack Nicholson, right? You can't get any better than Nicholson. Like, he's in
right.
everything. He's the best. But the guy you see in the movies is the guy that was right in front of you. He was funny. He was charming. He was engaging. He was grateful. He asked one thing: just don't encroach on my space. Don't push up on me. And when it's your turn, just come up, take a photo. We'll talk. And nobody, he was so gracious. And I think it was Billy Bob Thornton who I was listening to recently who talked about someone asked him a question about why do you always sign every autograph and take every photo? And he goes, because these people put my kids through college. These
Right.
people pay to see me. So that's why I do it. Right. And I met Matt Damon on the set of The Departed. He was the biggest asshole I ever met. I've met Leonardo DiCaprio twice. He was the biggest asshole. Jennifer Lawrence was an asshole. So I've met some of the big stars, right? And they're just most of them are assholes. But to me, Jack Nicholson's at the top. And I saw this guy being just himself. And it was so cool to see. And I was like, you know what? That's why he's so successful. He doesn't forget where he comes from, you know?
Exactly. And being gracious in
Yeah.
knowing I don't know you,
Yep.
but you know me.
Yeah.
And if this is something that you would like to have a photo with me, a signature, I'm happy to give it.
Yeah, and it was so cool. Like I know he's sick, and he was at SNL a while back, I think last year, but they still showed him, right? TMZ had a clip of him coming out of his hotel, and he had a line of people, and he can barely stand up, but he signed probably another 50 autographs for all these people waiting in line. And I was like, here he is, sick, like 80 something years old, and he's still just giving back, right? And
Right.
that's the greatest thing to me about some of these actors, right? That are great. Some of them suck, but a guy like Nicholson, I would think Nicholson would be the biggest jerk, because he's so successful and so famous. But nope, he was the coolest guy I've ever met. Coolest
Yeah.
guy. Did you do any acting and did you do any like shows or anything?
Nope, never did any shows in
Oh, yeah.
particular. I only did it from when I was 12 to maybe 13 and a half. And I
Okay.
also tried my hand at modeling because I lived in New York. I
Oh, yeah.
was on Long Island. My mother was willing to take me out of school to go do go-sees and these types of
Yeah.
things. So I would audition for commercials. And I think I just got to this point where no one really discussed with me about the no factor.
Yeah.
And as a young woman, it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And my mom said, are you sure? Because you said you really wanted to do it. And I was like, well, no, like I'm sick of getting the no.
The no.
And I
Yeah.
wish someone had spoken to me, like really and truly, as a young woman, to say, listen, this is how the business goes. You
Yeah.
just have to keep pushing through. You just have to do it, like Nike
You,
says.
you just
Because
have to get that
look
one
where I
hit.
am right now, full circle, coming
Yeah.
back, right up
Yeah.
around. And you know what a Hollywood director just told me? He said, most people drop out at 50. So
Yeah.
you have less competition. I'm like, oh, yay, hey.
So, Rose, right? In an age where AI can fake voices, faces, and entire people, why do you believe that live streaming is becoming the only way to prove authenticity? And what scares you most about that shift?
I think the shift doesn't scare me. It's things about the technology. I think it's still so raw and new that in many ways we can tell when something's trying to fool the eye. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why we know sometimes when AI is off and we're like, hey, and it's almost like, the kid in the room that, when you're in the room and the teacher and you're like, hey, this guy's doing this. And you're doing the tattletale thing, except
Yeah.
everyone in the room's like, ooh, yeah, what is it? What are you telling on him for? Right. So we all want to know, like, ooh, you're right. This isn't real. Okay. But for me, I think doing live streaming now and truly authentically being yourself and doing podcasts such as these that are not produced,
Yeah.
right, is really the authenticity and where it's going. I think for so long we thought video had to be so polished, it had to be so, you couldn't say you
Yeah.
couldn't, say so. Yes, you learn how to speak better so that way, if you are a speaker on a podcast or have one, yes, you speak well.
Yeah.
But if you are going to use a software that's going to move your eyes, like if I looked over here the whole time, Jimmy, and you said, "How do you feel about AI?" And I said, "Well, actually, I was thinking today about a story, and the story goes like this." You'd be like, "Holy crap, Rose is reading a script."
Script,
Why?
exactly.
Because when people try to read and also, like interact with the camera lens, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that teleprompters are good, and they are not.
Yeah.
So the true feeling I have is that being able to speak live is an asset. But also, you know what? People actually relate to people that make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
So the
Yeah.
biggest story I have for that is me doing a live stream in my car. The road was closed, so I was waiting for the closure to open. So I was like, "Ah, I'll do a live." So I was talking about, big beautiful Wyoming and how windy and, crazy it was out there in the snowstorm. And as I was holding the camera, I was like, "Yeah, if you want to take a look." And there went the camera right underneath my seat. So I knew everyone was seeing black. But I said, "I'll be darned, guys, if I'm going to open that door to the Wyoming wind. So you just have to wait till I fish you out." Right? But I didn't think that, I was being unprofessional or I was, "Oh gosh, look, I made this huge mistake. It's so terrible, horrible, awful." There are ways to push through and move through things so that way you can even laugh at yourself or say, huh. Because when I came back and I was able to grab the phone, everyone was talking about their stories about how many times they've done that in the car, drop their phone under their seat, right?
Yeah.
So I think for AI today, it's still so new, but as you know, it's moving so fast. So even at the time of release of this, things will have changed again.
Again. Yeah.
Again. But I do think live streaming and no production really allows for someone to understand your personality, but also if you're an expert in something, they understand how they can work with you and also be able to, offer something. Like if I have something that I want to help people with, I can offer it to you and your audience. And
Yeah.
you can decide if you'd like to maybe find out more. But if I
Exactly.
never tell you what I'm doing or how I help people, you'll never know. So
Exactly.
this is also what I help people do on camera because a lot of times it's just like, "Hi, okay, bye." Right? And you're like, "Well, what was the point of that as a
So
business
true.
owner?"
Yeah, and I think, like you said, right? Like I tell people this all the time. Like some people will ask me, like, how do you edit the podcast? How do you do this? And I tell them, I said, I don't remove anything, right? There may be just some awkward pauses in there that get removed. That's it. Otherwise, it goes from start to finish, and it's just our conversation, right? And I tell people, this is your platform. I've had some people that have been like, "Can you go back?" And I didn't like this answer, and I'm like, I can do one of two things. I can put it up as it is, or I don't have to air it. It's up to you. Because I'm not going back. I'm not cutting anything out. Like you said, I think it's the biggest thing with authenticity, right? Of being who you are, having that conversation. Because I think when you're in front of the camera and you're not reading and you're just flowing and having the conversation, that's when you find out who people really are, you know,
And you
true
know
people,
what? It's
you
a
know.
big time saver. Hello.
It really is. I used to do audio only and I used to go back and edit it by myself, just audio. And now I tell people I do the video. Video exclusively goes to YouTube, and then I have audio for Apple Podcasts and the rest of those. But the big thing is I don't go through anymore and erase this and erase that,
Yeah.
cut it out. Nope, it just comes out the way it is. And I take pride in that because so many people are like, well, I do this and I do that, and I say, well, I this is how I do it. It's my podcast, it's my platform, so that's how you're gonna get it, real, authentic, and that's the best part of it.
I love it, Uncle Jimmy. You're on the right track.
So, Rose, you've built multiple businesses, right? Voiceover,
Yes.
emceeing, coaching. What's the biggest failure that almost broke you, and how did it actually save you?
What's the biggest failure that almost broke me, but how did it save me?
Yeah.
Well, I went through a pretty bad breakup. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right. I know. But I'm going to tell you the story because it really, I thought it was like terrible, but it
Yeah.
wound up being the best thing that ever happened in my life. I used to date this guy. He was famous. I'm not going to say what his name is or any of that garbledygook, but we'll just say he was a musician and it was really fun. I had a
Yeah.
great time with him because he, he knew how to have a good time. And I loved being backstage and hanging out with the backstage folks and just being part of that lifestyle. I loved, like I probably could have done that for the rest of my life because I loved it.
Yeah.
But he never put me first. That's an issue. So we broke it off, and I had moved to Connecticut to be closer to him. And so I'd left all my friends in New York to move to Connecticut, but I had made new friends in Connecticut. And I just kind of, was in this place of, I just feel like depressed. And now what? Now I'm here. What the heck am I doing? And a girlfriend of mine sent me a link and she said, "You should go climb this mountain." And I was like, "What? What mountain?" She's like, "Well, I don't know. It's like this outward bound thing, and you have to be 30 years old to attend, and you take a look at your life and you journal and stuff." I was like, "What? Send that to me. What is this?" So I looked at it, like literally signed up the next day. And it was basically these few things. Like I was 31. So I was like, I can go because I'm 31.
Yeah.
So I went in at 31, and all the other people were much, much older than me. I was basically the youngest person there. And it was like a look at your life kind of thing. And it was do hikes, and it was river rafting, which I had done as a kid and loved. It was rock climbing, which I had never done before, and I was very good at, which I still am, just like a natural talent there,
Yeah.
and climb a mountain. And it changed my life completely because when I came back, actually, the day before I came back, I said to the woman who was my trip leader, I said, "Okay, I want to do what you do." And she laughed at me because here I am, this woman living in, the East Coast that just paid however much money to attend this, 1 week event. You're not allowed to have phones or contact anyone, all this stuff. And here I am saying, "I want to do what you do." And she laughed in my face, but I did not take offense. And I looked at her and I said, "No, I'm serious."
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she go, "Oh, well, you only have to do one thing." I said, "Really? Tell me what it is. I want to know. I'm doing this." She said, "You just have to let go of money." And I said, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got you. I got you." She's still my friend today on Facebook, and she does amazing things. And you know what? I made that happen for myself. I came back and I decided I needed a full year to get ready to basically sell all my stuff and leave and get everyone on board that I was becoming a guide. And people thought I was nuts. And I said, "Well, you can think what you want, but I know this is what I need to do. I'm
Yeah.
out of here." And away I went. It
That's
was
so
all because of
powerful.
that breakup.
That's so powerful, right? What was the Outward Bound program? Do you remember?
I don't recall, but again, you had to be 30 or over. You weren't
Yeah.
allowed to be in your 20s.
Well,
So I felt so adult like.
I'll tell you a funny thing. Not funny, but I was lucky enough. I went to an Outward Bound private school for three
Oh,
years.
did you?
3 years,
Okay.
yeah, here in Boston, and, I took a boat to school every day.
Oh, yes, because they teach a lot of boat
Yeah.
classes.
I
Yes.
took a boat every day from 7:30 in the morning to 5:30 at night. I went over to Thompson Island here in Boston. They had a private school over there. I was lucky enough, and it was Outward Bound education, and it was unbelievable. It was one of the best things I ever had in my life. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I was lucky enough to be able to go there. The Thompson Island, um, It was on Thompson Island in Boston. It was the Heinz Willauer School. It no longer exists. The
Wow.
program's still out there. Yeah, it was all boys when I went. Then they switched to co-eds, and it was a boarding school as well. You could stay, but
Okay.
it was awesome, you know. And it's literally you're on an island. You look over, and the city's right there. You know, it's beautiful. But Outward Bound has a big it's near and dear and close to my heart because it was such an experience of a lifetime. And I often think of that school and the lessons that I was taught there and everything. You know, as I get older, you learn to appreciate things, right? And that was one of the greatest
Yes.
educations that I've ever had and experiences going there. So when you
Oh,
said
yes.
Outward Bound, I
Outward
was so
Bound for
excited.
sure changed my life as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's so powerful, their programs. Because over on our island where I went to school, they had a rock tower, a climbing tower. We would do expeditions. It was so cool. Like I can only imagine the expedition you went on, but probably similar to
Yeah.
what we used to do. We used to do expeditions out in the you know, winter. We would build igloos and sleep in them. It was so cool. We had so much fun. It was a lot of fun. You know.
Wow. Igloos. That's cool. I haven't done that yet. It's on the
Yeah, it's so
list.
cool. So cool. So, Rose, I know you focus a lot on women, right? Over 50. Why that group specifically? And what's a common lie society tells them about starting over or showing up online?
Well, I would start with I work with women that are over 50 because I'm over 50. And so I know exactly how it feels to be told you're not good enough, right? So
Yeah.
my dad told me that I'd live out of a dumpster when I was 20 years old and I was going to college for TV and radio. And he said, if you think you can make anything of yourself, you're going to live out of a dumpster. So I took that literally, like I was going to be living on the streets looking for food in a dumpster.
Yeah.
And it scared the heck out of
Hell
me.
out of you.
And I'm from New York.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think women are told a lot, and especially in the corporate world, maybe you're not enough, you're not good enough. There's a layer of imposter syndrome that can sit on top of things. You know, when you tell someone you can do something and then you're not sure of something, women will always be the first to try and figure out how to get it done for sure.
Okay.
But I think the going on camera thing, right? So I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. And a lot of times when I try to bring up, like, because my start came in 2007 when blogging was a big deal, right? And Facebook was like a little blip on the map, and
Yeah.
Twitter was a little twinkle. And I was the biggest evangelizer of social media, and people thought I was nuts again, right? Like I've always feel like I can see the future, and people are like, "You're nuts," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Say what you want. I know what I'm doing, or
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen," and so I basically, took those reins, took the or actually I took the bull by the horns,
Horns,
and
yeah.
I literally just brought tons, like literally hundreds of companies here in Jackson Hole onto social media because they didn't even know what to do or how to do it. During that time frame, the biggest, I would say, obstacle I came up with was when I would ask about being on camera. Oh no, I don't do that. I don't go on camera. No, no, no. Right. And it wasn't until years later, like, because I knew some of the things, right? Like, my nose is too big. I don't like my wrinkles on camera. I don't belong on camera. The young people belong on camera. There's so many excuses.
Yeah.
I could go through them all. But I
Yeah.
think women sometimes feel like they are just not good enough. And in today's age of AI, the most important thing is for people to see your personality, because a picture of you going
Yeah.
and a
Exactly.
picture of you going, it's not going to cut it in
Yeah.
the AI age. I can tell you that. Plus, how many times, let's be honest, Uncle Jimmy, how many times have you gone to, like, let's say we're going to an author's workshop and you look them up in advance and you see them on LinkedIn? You're like, okay, I know who I'm looking for. And then you see them in person, you're like, who the hell is that?
No clue who they are. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
no matchy.
Yeah.
So I think when people really get a feel for your personality, I usually say a picture. If a picture is 1,000 words, then a video is a million. Because you
Million.
know what? You're really getting a sense for who someone is, how they are, and can I trust you? Can
Yeah.
you, like, are they looking at the camera? Are they looking at me? Are they reading a script? Are they making this shit up? Like, what are we talking about? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people, like you said, people oftentimes, I find it, when people go live, I'm more apt to go check out their page or check them out, right? If they are live, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it piques my interest when someone's live. And it could be like you're saying, it's more it's more authentic. So it's more like, oh, let me go check these people out, right? Because very rarely do I, scrolling through and you see a photo and it's like, oh, let me go check out that. No, it's a video that piques my interest. So
Mm-hmm.
so, Rose, imposter syndrome, right? It hits hard in creative and online spaces. When has it hit you the hottest, and what finally quieted that voice?
Ah, yes. My crown jewel of a story about this one. You're gonna love it. Oh my goodness. So I have had several radio shows, one of them being a syndicated radio show. So before I got that syndicated radio show, a colleague of mine at Jackson Hole Radio said, "You should apply for this."
Yeah.
And I said, "Apply for this? What am I gonna apply to? I don't know anything about country music radio. Like, what? I'm not applying to this." But I kept the email in my inbox. And if there's one thing you need to know about me is I hate emails in my inbox. I gotta get them out. So it was like 5 days later, and I'm drinking a glass of wine. Now you know what happens now. I'm a little looser up, and I'm like, "What kind of emails we got in here?" And I was like, "Oh, this email."
Piquing
So I
your
was like,
interest now.
"Oh, you know what? I'm gonna send my stuff." So I write this whole, and we didn't have AI back then. This was in 2020. Or I didn't know how to use it back then, or I didn't know anything about it. And so I literally had to like spend time in writing this email, like from deep within my heart, about why I was the best person to be the host of Yellowstone Country, especially because I would name myself Jackson Hole Rose to go
Yeah.
with the story. And the next day, I got an email. We're not at the imposter syndrome part yet, just letting you know. I
Yeah.
get an email all in capital letters that says, "We want you. You are the host. Da, 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 da. Here's all the documents. Sign these agreements. Ta, 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 ta. We're going to start here. We're going to start there. We're going to do this. We love the name. Ta, 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 ta." And I was like, what just happened? I write to my colleague and I'm like, "Is this for real? Is this for real? Is this
Yeah,
real?"
who's playing a joke on me?
Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, this is very real." He's like, "And I looked at the contracts, they're real. Go ahead and sign them and do this." And I was like, "Right, right, okay, I'm gonna go do this." So I do. I sign everything. I give them everything, and I'm like, "I need time to like brand my stuff and figure out what I'm doing." They're like, "No problem." Radio silence. I didn't tell anybody
Yeah.
for 3 weeks. I sat with that information that I was going to be a syndicated radio show host because the imposter syndrome just gnawed at me like a squirrel gnawing at a food bag that wasn't secured properly in a camp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I know nothing about country music. How am I going to make this happen? Where am I going to make this happen? I got to do the production. How am I?" It was kind of like it was like that. And then I'd be like, "I can do this. I'm totally fine." And then I would break down the next minute, which is why I knew I wasn't ready to tell
To do.
anyone.
Yeah.
But when I finally started telling people, they were just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so amazing." And da 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 da. So that was my imposter syndrome story. It took a lot to push through. But you know what? Even though I knew nothing about new country music, man, did I learn fast. And right after COVID, I got to go to Nashville and I met a ton of stars. It was fun.
Nashville's fun.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful place. So how long were you on the radio for?
Well, I helped start the community radio station here in Jackson Hole. We only have one community radio station. So I started it with a show called Local Lady Talk. I
Okay.
had more male listeners than female. So one of my favorite shows was called The Science of Kissing. And I literally would like read about it and then I'd just kind of talk about it on air and ask people what they thought. And men would come up to me and be like, I heard your show. Like I heard what you said. And I was like, yeah. And after that, I worked with Jackson Hole Radio for several years. And then they had a little buyout and a little shifteroo happen. And then I had the syndicated radio show.
Yeah.
And so I had been on the radio 3 times and I felt like it was time to go because a TV producer had come to me and said he wanted me to do a live streaming show.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? I can just retire from radio
Yeah.
and go into this live streaming show. But that obviously never came to fruition. So that was another, point in my life and shift that changed my world.
That changed everything. Yeah. So you live in Jackson Hole, right? Beautiful and isolated. How has
Hmm.
that tested your mental health, and what keeps you grounded there?
Well, the mountains, right? For one thing, the mountains, as a local, you always know where you can take a peek at them at any moment in town because we're blocked by like a big butte. So you can't always, so it's not like, oh, look at the town of Jackson Hole and the big mountains right there. That's not how it is, actually.
Yeah.
If we want to go into the mountains, we have to kind of go north of town to get up in there. But I think for, any person living in a space that only has 30,000 people, and that if you want to get out of it, you're going to have to road trip in a whiteout if it happens to be snowing that day, you're going to have to accept the fact that, you live in the land of winter, and when it snows, you're going to withstand it. You're going to either go out and recreate in it, or you're going to cuddle in and cook or do
Yeah.
something else that's an indoor activity. But you must accept that fact. Otherwise, your mental health would not be strong here. I've
Yeah.
had lots of friends that loved it here in the summertime, and then they endured maybe 1 or 2 winters, and they are out of here. So
It
it's
can be.
not for everyone. It's
Yeah.
definitely strong Wyoming wind, winters, very short, brief, gorgeous summers, but also very outdoorsy, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're an outdoorsy person, you're going to love it. If you don't like being outside and you're more city style, you probably won't like it. You'd probably like it for a weekend.
Yeah. I was out to. I got a nephew in school in Montana, and I've been out
Okay.
there. It's absolutely gorgeous. It was,
Hmm.
coming from Boston, and I got another nephew in Vancouver too, so going up there as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like two beautiful places to visit. Montana was great. It was. I've never been in a place where it's 360, just mountains, all around,
Yes.
and it
Where
was.
were you in Montana?
I was in. He goes to Montana State University, which is in. Oh, what the hell's the name of the town? It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Bozeman?
Bozeman. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
They're
crazy
they're
thing about
experiencing
Bozeman,
a lot of growth in
that's
recent years.
yeah, and
Mhm.
that was my thing. I was going to say next. I believe they have a population of almost 80,000, which is
Mhm.
crazy because Montana only has about a million, 1.1 million. So I'm like, wow, almost 10% of their population is in this town, right?
Yes.
And it was shocking because on the outskirts, you started seeing the new condominium complexes going up, and I'm like, why would you even do this? You're ruining it. You know what I mean? I'm used to it here in the city. You grew up in Brooklyn, you're used to it. You see it. It's like, okay, we can do that here, but out there, leave it, leave it, just leave it. Don't,
Mm.
don't, don't, don't start doing it. But it's beautiful. It was
Well,
absolutely
the
beautiful.
kids they come out from places like the East Coast and then they
Yeah,
decide they want to stay there. And
yeah,
there might not be enough room. You see, Bozeman has a lot of flat space,
Yeah.
where you can actually produce that type of urban sprawl. In
Sprawl.
Jackson Hole, we are very tight. And if you didn't know this, 97% of the surrounding lands are protected, so they may never be built on.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're a very special place, and we're very close to Yellowstone National Park as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, in your experience, right? What's the biggest mental block holding people back from live video? And how do you call it out without sugarcoating it?
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely not a sugarcoater. I think you've realized that, Uncle
That
Jimmy.
that's the Brooklyn in you.
And I actually used to have an Uncle Jimmy. Well, actually, I still do. He's around. Where's that Uncle Jimmy? Um, okay, so the question was, how do we not sugarcoat this and say what is that biggest thing? The biggest fear I find that most people has is the fear of being judged. As
Yeah.
simple as that. They are afraid that people are going to look at them and say, "Oh, look at how big their nose is," or I could use a million other examples. Gosh, one eye is bigger than the other. Oh, look at their glasses. They're so ugly. But you know what? People are not thinking that. They're thinking, who is this person? What do they do? And do I want to listen to what they're saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It really is about that. And you can get past someone's big nose for whatever reason, right? Like
Yeah.
my dad had a big nose. I'm glad I don't have his big nose. Thank you, Lord. But he was a good looking dude. He was a good looking full Italian dude, right? With a big nose. So if he got on camera, like if my dad was still living today, God help us all, I'd probably put him on camera just because,
Yeah.
just to see what he'd do.
Just to see his reaction.
Yeah. Um,
So,
but
like,
I think people are very self-conscious in
yeah.
addition to, I mean, if we went into more of the scientific factors about, listening to your own voice and how you're used to hearing it come through this way and this way. And when something's recorded and you hear it come through this way and then come into your ears, like there's this whole scientific thing, even about your face not being evenly, right?
Right.
Like we're not perfect in the sense that our faces are going to appear on screen backwards because we're used to looking at ourselves in a mirror. So when we look on camera, we're like, that doesn't even look like me.
Yeah.
But we are our own worst judge. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
we are. So we have to remember that. And as I say to my clients, you must push through and continue to do and be the thing and be yourself and just do it like Nike says. I like to say F perfect. I had someone from Africa, one of my clients that I actually donate my time to there. And he said, Rose, you say this thing that I'm not really sure about. You say F perfect. What does this mean? And I was like, oh boy, how should I explain this? So I said, as an American, we can be a little rough. It can mean a curse word, right? Like F perfect. I said, but you have inspired me to allow me to think out of the box that it could also mean forget perfect.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I say F perfect, I say, and that can mean forget perfect. Because you know what? Nobody's perfect. We all know it. That ain't new news.
Yeah.
So why do we try to be? Take that mask off, be yourself, and you'll thank yourself for it.
Yeah. Look, and you can see it too, right, Rose? When you're looking at TikTok or you're looking at Instagram or Facebook, right? Sometimes you see these people, these people. Excuse me. You see these people, and their videos just clip, right? So they're
Yes, I
saying
hate the
something, and then they
clipping,
clip.
stitching. Bah.
Yeah, and it's like, just go with it. You're gonna make mistakes, like me. I'm not gonna cut that out that I almost just died on camera coughing. And stay in there. It doesn't bother me.
Well, people get so attached to their scripts. They're like,
Yeah.
I must read the script. I don't want to forget any little word I say. And
Yeah.
I actually teach people how to get off of the script because there is a way to keep in your mind on point with the things you need to say and how to say it.
Yeah.
And they're just so tied into this script that they have that either auto robot voice or they're looking off to the side. Yes, and da, 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 and you're just like, you're not even talking to
Talking.
me.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is a scientific factor that people that look into other people's eyes when they speak allows for this trust form to happen.
Yeah.
The oxytocin happens. Do you know about that whole thing?
No.
And it can even happen with a camera. So we buy from people that we know, like, and trust. We also like to chat with people that we know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
We like to trust people that we think we can trust, right? And it's a big, beautiful world online these days, but it can go down some dark holes.
Yeah.
And we all need to be careful with that, right? So the more people you can trust and put your trust in, like, oh, that's a real person. Oh, they're talking about real stuff. Oh, cool. Like they're on my list to listen to, or I got to see where Uncle Jimmy's at,
Yeah.
because he's doing these cool things. So, in our minds, the trust is building with the online world because there's so much that allows us to just be like, oh, and I'm done with you. I
Yeah.
don't want this anymore. Right? Like one little wrong move and people are like, nah,
No
I
more.
don't want this anymore. Or if they know that you're fooling them, or if they know you're using AI and you're not being clear with it,
Yeah.
right? These kinds of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you talk about, right, transforming followers into clients. What's the hardest no or rejection you've faced in pitching yourself, and how did you bounce back?
Mhm. The hardest no. I think even as a woman over 50, I can still get mentoring.
Yeah.
And mentors are good because I always feel like I'm constantly learning. Not everyone feels like they need or want this, but I do. And I was rejected through a program once because they said they wouldn't allow me to be in the mentor structure, like to get a mentor, even though I really wanted to have that.
Yeah.
They said because I didn't employ people because I was a solopreneur. And I thought, wow, that seems so small-minded. Like,
Yeah.
what? I wasn't gonna say like what, but I thought in my mind like these people, where do they get this small-minded thinking? Why would you not want me to have a mentor and learn more? Because I hold the name of this town,
Yeah.
bitches, in my
Exactly.
hand. I am Jackson Hole Rose. Now, not to get cocky, but you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you tell me no?
Yeah.
I'm trying to raise awareness for this town with my name attached to it.
Yeah. And they're telling you no.
They told me no because I don't employ people and I don't plan on scaling. And they couldn't bring me into their program because I was only one person.
One person.
And I had someone tell me, you know what? We all start off as one person, maybe a partnership, but still, it was kind of like it was like, I don't know, Uncle Jimmy, which one's worse? Knife in the back and a twist, or, front, or like a slit? I mean, pick your, way to die. It was like, talk
But it's
about, soul crushing. I was like, okay, I'll find somewhere else to go to find mentor
mentor,
coaching
right? And
ship.
and here you are putting yourself out there trying to, get better, trying to learn, and people
Yes,
telling you no, and it's like,
right.
but I think sometimes as a culture, right, as a society in America, that's some of the hottest things where it's like you're solo, right? So in their eyes, and many people's eyes, you're not bringing, you know, how big can a solopreneurship be? You're solo, you're by yourself, you're not bringing anything to the table per se, right? But people are so small minded where it's like, look, you've taken Jackson Hole, you've created it into what it is. You put everyone on social media. It's like, look, this
Yes.
is this is what I'm doing. This is what I bring to the table, right? I'm bringing you a glimpse into Jackson Hole because before that, you wouldn't have known about it. People wouldn't have been what stores are here, what things are here to do, and people are just so small minded. I can only imagine being told, no. I mean, I was not that I was lucky enough, but for 41 years of my life. I didn't take no for an answer, and I used to say it all the time, right? If we sat there and you told me the sky was blue and I could tell you the sky was black, and after our conversation for about 50 minutes, an hour, I would convince you when we walked out of there that that sky was black. And you would say, hey, Jimmy, the sky is black, right? And that's how I used to do it, because I do the union work and you beat people down and there's a lot that goes into it, but it's, it's one of the hottest things in life of, like you said, you're doing great things, you're achieving great things for the town, trying to bring it to the forefront, and someone's telling you no. Like you said, that must have been just be like, oh, like,
Oh, they're not the only ones that told me no.
oh,
Someone asked me, because I'm also trying to empower others to get on camera using live streaming as a
yeah,
sales tool for
yeah,
their business.
yeah.
And I have people asking me, well, I don't understand. Why can't we just do video?
Oh,
Why does it have to be live streaming? Like, my daughter live streams her hockey games. And I'm like, exactly. Your daughter is 12. She's going to
exactly.
get used to this behavior. Do you
Yeah,
not see that connection?
this is
So it's
coming.
really hard when you see the connection and others don't,
Don't.
or they see the connection, but they're afraid of that connection. So
Yeah.
this is my, I feel like this is the rest of my career. I will spend getting people on camera to push past all the fears they possibly can so that they can be as normal as I am on camera right now with you.
Yeah. So a couple more questions before we close, right? So
Yes.
looking back, what's one moment fear almost won, but choosing courage changed everything?
You'll love this story, and who knows why the hell this story popped up in my mind, but it is a true one. And it was when I was a kid. I went wilderness camping for years. My parents would ship me off, and for 2 months, I would be gloriously walking on trails and singing songs and in front of campfires and all that good stuff. And there was this thing that people did, and it was swimming a mile in a lake.
Okay.
And I always thought, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Like, I don't have enough power. I don't, I'm a little kid. I mean, I was a little kid. When I did it, I want to say 12 years old,
Okay.
right? And it was a really scary thing. And it almost won because, there's a guy in a rowboat and he's rowing and he's watching you swim. And you're like, okay, go back to when you were 12, right? It
Yeah.
felt like the
Panicking and
world was
struggling.
coming
Yeah.
down on you. I felt like a sea monster was like grabbing my foot, but it was really the pine trees that were like tickling my toes. And I wanted to give up so many times and just call to the boat and be like, lift me in. And there were like probably, I'm trying to think, maybe, because they would be like, who wants to do the mile thing? And we'd all be like,
Yeah.
I do. I want to do it. I want to do it. Right. And then I think I was with like 5 other kids, and 2 others got in the boat, and then they were watching us struggle.
Yeah.
I was on the struggle bus, but I was in the water, right? Swimming this mile as a 12-year-old. And when I finished and I did that and I got a little certificate and I got, named at dinner, like, Rose was able to swim the mile. I was like on cloud 9, but I'll tell you what, I wanted so much to get in that boat and punch those people in the face. Because I was like, you stop looking at me, right? Because they were in the struggle with me and they gave up.
They
And then
gave
they
up.
were in the boat watching me.
Yeah.
So it was like this weird dynamic of like, no, I can't give up. I can't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost pushed you to keep to finish, right?
Yeah.
You
And it
didn't want to
did.
be the one in the boat.
That's right.
So, Rose, if your story, right, was a warning and a blueprint for the next generation, what's the one hard truth you'd make them face head on?
If it was let me make sure I understand through your accent the question. Eh, can you repeat the first part of it? Because you
So,
said
if your story was a warning and
a
a
warning
blueprint, yep, a
and a
warning
blueprint.
for the
Okay.
next generation,
Yep.
what's the one hard truth you'd make them face head on?
Okay. The one hard truth, folks, is that aging sucks. And you may not know the things that we go through now, but you will when you turn 50 and older. That is my advice for you. So never, ever, ever, never, ever laugh at a person who's older than you that complains about their back or their neck or the because we have to, okay? Just leave it.
Right? And there it is, another raw, unfiltered conversation that reminds us we're all just figuring it out, one brave step at a time. Massive thanks to you, Rose, Jackson Hole Rose, for bringing that Wyoming fire, the real talk on fair, AI, live video, and owning your story no matter the age or the odds. Your energy and wisdom hit different. Appreciate you opening up like that. If this episode shocked you, moved you, or made you think about hitting that go live button, right? As we talked about, drop a comment, share it with someone who's hiding from the camera, or tag a friend who needs this. Hit
Boom.
subscribe, turn on the notification so you don't miss the next one, dropping Saturdays at 9 a.m. You can shoot me an email at unclejimmyspodcast@gmail.com. Tell me your takeaways, your own camera fears, or who you want next on the mic. Remember, life's throwing curveballs, but showing up real, even when it's scary, builds the strongest connections. Keep talking it out, keep pushing through, and know you've got family here. Peace and love, everybody. Uncle Jimmy signing off. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And Rose, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. And until next time, peace and love. Peace and love. Uncle Jimmy out.